If you're a homeowner and you're looking to get your roof replaced, you may not know what is available on the market. So you want to do your research and see, okay, what are my options and what are the best products out there for me? Welcome to the Shingle Olympics. In this video, we're going to go over 14 different shingles for asphalt grades that are available in the market, most markets in the United States. We're not going to be going over the higher grades of polymer-modified. They're going to put you into a 25 to 50% different price point category for replacing your roof. We're also not going to go over synthetic products that are going to be just higher end and really double the cost of what your asphalt shingles are going to be, such as F-Wave or Brava or Da Vinci. We're also not going to be going over, of course, metal products. This video is going to be covering 14 asphalt shingles that are going to be in a reasonable price point for your average homeowner. My name is Daniel Wagenmaker. I'm the owner of Reliance Roof Troop. We're based out of Northwest Indiana and we serve the greater Chicago region. In this video, we are going to be covering 14 different shingles over 7 different grading criteria. And like I said earlier, this video is meant to go over the durability of these products. So all of our testing and all of our decisions and data points are going to be based off of the ability for the shingle to last long term. The 7 tests that we chose to define what makes a shingle last longer and be more durable. First one's going to be the weight of the shingle. Second one is going to be the thickness of it. Third is going to be whether or not the shingle is impact rated. Then you also have the nailing zone, how wide is it? And there's some other factors we're going to talk about. The 5th one is going to be the amount of sealant. And then you have in the 6th category, the common bond area. The shingle is really made of 2 parts. We want to go over the upper and the laminate piece, how much it's bonded together, stays together. The final and last one is going to be the granule loss. So stay towards the end for the final results that we have. Test number 1, we have the weight of the shingle. The weight doesn't play a huge factor. It's something, you know, it depends on the quality of the asphalt truly. So what is that asphalt made of? Is there fluff? Are there fillers kind of built into it? That could help the weight, but ultimately the weight doesn't play a huge factor, but it's something we just at least want to mention on here. So the top 3 for the heaviest shingles, you have number 1 as the Certainteed Landmark Pro. Number 2 is going to be the GAF Timberline UHDZ, and number 3 is the Malarkey Vista. The bottom 2, you have the IKO Dynasty, as well as the Owens Corning Oak Ridge. I understand that all the shingles are going to have different dimensions, so we didn't take the whole weight of the shingle because some shingles are going to be roughly 39 inches wide, some are going to be 42 inches wide, some are going to be longer, some shorter. What we did is we took the overall weight of the shingle and then we took the measurements and we calculated that as more of a per square inch on the weight and then converted it into a weight per square foot. Test number 2, the thickness of the shingle. The thickness of the shingle is just like the weight. It's not going to inherently help a whole lot on the durability when it comes to withstanding storms, strong winds, and Mother Nature, but it helps some. For example, when you have a shingle, let's say it's made of poor quality asphalt, it's going to start cracking, it's going to start dry rotting. Well, if it's a little thicker, it's going to take just a little bit longer for those cracks to form all the way down to the core. So it's something that we still want to calculate and measure. So we used a caliper to determine the thickness of the shingle. One key point is we made sure we went on the actual single area part of the shingle, not where there's what we call a dragon's tooth on there. We also don't want to factor in where the sealant is on the bottom because we just took the raw overall single piece of that shingle to determine the thickness. For our top contenders, for our number 1, you have the GAF Timberline UHDZ. And then number 2, you've got, it's actually a tie. So Malarkey Vista is also there. And then number 3 is going to be the Certainteed Landmark Pro. The bottom shingles, you have the same. It's actually the Owens Corning Duration and the Owens Corning Oak Ridge as the thinnest. And I will say that just because it's a thin shingle does not mean it's lesser quality. To some point it can, but in this case it does not. It's something that we still want to factor into the overall rankings, but like I said earlier, it's more about the quality of the asphalt than just is it thick or thin, is it heavy versus light. The next tests are going to go into a higher value. Next test, we have the nailing zone. Nailing zone is something that's important because where your nails are placed could cause a leak or it could not. If you put the nail below the nailing zone, it's gonna leak, just gonna have water exposed on it. If you put the nail too high past the nailing zone, it's potential for that shingle to blow off since it's not gonna have a good holding capacity. We just measured the overall common bond area where the lapping area is in the zone. Now, with that being said, where the shingles overlap is what we have for our data, but there are exceptions to 3 shingles where we extended the actual nailing zone past that common bond area because of some type of fabric or synthetic strip that was very well commonly bonded to that already double overlap on the shingle piece. Those 3 shingles would be the Owens Corning Duration, you have the Tamco Titan XT, and the IKO Dynasty. Top contenders, you have the Malarkey Vista and you have the Malarkey Highlander. Those have a raw overall width of the nailing zone is 1.375 inches on there. So those are tied for first place. In number 3, technically, third spot, you have the Owens Corning Duration. So while they have a shorter nailing zone where it commonly bonds over, they have a synthetic strip that is going to extend further on, and they're going to be extended just a little bit more than others and just below Malarkey, but they are a top contender at number 3. I do want to give a shout out to Atlas Pinnacle Pristine as well because they also have a pretty big nailing zone at 1.25 inches. So I do appreciate that. Everyone else is typically around 0.75 inches. The lowest contenders, you've got the Owens Corning Oak Ridge, and then everyone else is pretty much tied to 0.75. So rankings will reflect this here. Next test, we have the impact rating. This test, it's not even a test. We didn't determine truly if it's impact rated or not, okay? That's gonna be for a later video. And frankly, just because the shingle says it's impact rated doesn't mean it actually is, okay? I'll say that, that's my caveat. There's a whole lot to talk about here, and I'm gonna make a whole nother video about shingles being impact rated. Let's talk about first what that means, okay? Impact rating means that a shingle can take a piece of hail and not get damaged, and it won't get blown out. There's not gonna be a hole, there's not gonna be a fracture going on. It's gonna withstand up to 1.75 inches of hail in diameter, being a class 3 shingle, and a full 2 inch in diameter piece of hail as a class 4 shingle. There is no class 5. It's either you're a class 4 shingle or a class 3, or it's just not impact rated. Most of the insurance companies are now pushing to have an impact rated shingle. They started doing this about 2 years ago, and there were already shingles on our current testings that were already impact rated. There was one shingle manufacturer out there that decided their shingle was a class 3 shingle, went from nothing to a class 3. They didn't make any changes to it, but then they all of a sudden waved their magic wand and said, ours is a class 3. And all the other shingle manufacturers saw that and they figured out, oh, we can pass this UL testing. So here we go. There's a deep dive on this, but now we have pretty much most of the shingles on the market that are now a class 3. I'm gonna use this, I'm gonna use quotations. It's a class 3 shingle because no one changed anything. No one made it a better shingle. It's just all of a sudden they wave their magic wands and, oh, ours is class 3 too. Ours can withstand hail. Anyway, that's another topic for another discussion. How we ranked this on our overall results for the impact rating is if it's a class 4 or not. Is it a class 3 or not? This has a benefit to you as a homeowner because whether or not it actually is impact rated, the insurance company will give you a discount. So if it's a class 4, not always, but most times your insurance company should be able to give you a discount. I mean, it varies, but some are as high as 25% off of your homeowner's insurance premium just for having a class 4. And I think the industry is going to move towards requiring a class 4 shingle. Now, when it comes to class 3, if it's a class 3 shingle, then you're rated in that category and ranking. You have the ability to withstand 1.75 inches of hail, then congratulations, you're ranked up there. You know, insurance companies are still going to value that. I think you'll see some discounts in your homeowner's insurance, upwards of 10, 11%, somewhere in that range. But check with your insurance agent on what your rating is. So with the ratings, we have the only class 4 shingles that we have of our 14 shingles You have the Malarkey Vista, you have the Certainty Landmark Pro, and you have the GAF Timberline UHDZ. And then for our Class 3 shingles, you can see here over on the list which ones are at. I'm going to mention the ones that are not impact rated. That one is going to be the Tamco Heritage and the Owens Corning Oak Ridge. You have the IKO Cambridge, the GAF Timberline Natural Shadow, and the Certainty Landmark. Everything else on the list that I didn't mention is a Class 3 shingle. Test number 5. This is where we get to the tests that, in my opinion, matter more. Test number 5 is the sealant. That's the sealant you see at the bottom of the shingle that's going to glue and bond itself to the other one, a consecutive in order. It's what's going to keep that shingle together and keeping rain from getting driven in outside of the nail in the nailing zone, which you find in the middle of the shingle. So you have the nail to hold the shingle down, but that's in the center of the shingle. So if you didn't have the sealant on the edge of your shingle, it'd be flapping in the wind. The sealant holds and bonds and just cohesively glues itself to the shingle below it. And if you don't have enough on your shingles, then you've got a problem of within 5 to 10 years, you're gonna have these strong western winds. I mean, here in the Chicago area, we get a lot of strong winds and they come from the west. So they're gonna then break that seal. They're going to drive the rain underneath, and you're gonna start to see circular staining spots on your ceiling. We see it all the time. And some shingles are more prone to having these wind-driven rain leaks more so than others. So the way that we measured and quantified the sealant on here and who gets ranked higher than the other is we wanna calculate 2 things. First is the surface area of the sealant on the shingle. How much sealant is actually on there in square inches. Then we also want to calculate the thickness of that sealant, because if you have a whole lot of sealant and it's not that thick, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good. It's not going to be able to bond itself, or it's not going to take much for that sealant bond to just break and rip up when you get a nice gust of 50 to 60 miles an hour, which does happen just about every year, if not more, here in the region. So we measure the amount of sealant spots on the shingle. We measure the length, we measure the width, we add it all up. There you go. And then you also get additional points for the thickness. How do we determine the thickness of it? Well, we just take a razor blade and we more or less level things out ourselves. So we take a blade and we run it over the sealants, and it's gonna catch. If you have a right amount of thickness, it's going to score itself over pretty well and get stuck. If you don't have enough sealant, then it's just not gonna catch. It's gonna glide right over. Pretty basic, pretty generic. But that's what we did with our Shingle Olympics previous run. And it's something that is very important. If you don't have enough sealant, then you're gonna have wind-driven rain. Unfortunately, you think your roof is gonna last 20 years, you're gonna have to think about replacing it within 10 to 15. So this is all about getting your money's worth out of what you're buying. The 6th test, this is also another important one, is the common bond test. So why is the common bond area important? The common bond area is what is gonna keep the upper and the lower laminate piece together. When your roof is being installed, you have shingles in your big, large bundles. The bundles get picked up at some point before they're installed in your roof. And they either get picked up like this, some may be carried straight, some may sag a little bit, and some are gonna be slung over the installer's shoulders. And that arcing right there is going to cause stress in that common bond area. So the quality of the asphalt is gonna come down to an important play on factoring the common bond area. There's, yes, the glue that holds it together, there's the quality of the glue, but there's also the quality of the asphalt. The way that we quantified our rankings and results for the common bond testing is arcing the shingle. We pick up the shingle and we're gonna essentially bend it and let gravity do its place in 3 different spots. Of course, we have the middle of the shingle where we hold the shingle over and we let it rainbow or arc over, and we just let gravity do its thing so we can see what stress points are there, how many there are, how wide they are. And then we move it over to the left of the shingle and let it arc over lengthwise. We move it over to the right side and let that shingle arc over lengthwise. This is to simulate a handling of the shingle and the ways that it could run into any stress before it's installed on your roof. So you get valued on this test based off of if there are cracks when we have these stress points put on there. We also factor in how wide the cracks are. Are they 1/2 inch? Are they 1/4 inch? Are they 1 inch on there? The final thing that we quantify is, do you see daylight? Because when we have the fracturing going on, If you don't see anything, inherently there could be just no harm done. But if you're seeing daylight on those lines, you've got a problem, because you have a roof. Congratulations, it's installed and it's fresh. You've got day one, brand new roof. You think it's gonna last longer, and you actually have water weeping through those small cracks on your brand new roof. When we're coming up with the results on these, we find that the quality of the asphalt truly matters when we see the cracking, when we see the fracturing, and how many lines show up, how long are they. The quality of the asphalt and how much sealant there is very important. Our top contenders for this common bond test: you have Malarkey Vista and Malarkey Highlander as number 1 and 2, and then you also have the Owens Corning Duration in number 3. So it comes down to the quality of the asphalt there. Our lowest contenders, you have the GAF Shingles and you have the CertainTeed Landmark. You can see the results here. Last but not least, my favorite and what I see as the most important test: granule loss. Let's talk about why this test is important. Why do you have granules on your shingles in the first place? Why do you need them? When asphalt is laying outside and it's exposed to the sunlight, UV rays, and you have water pooling around there, it's more prone to cracking and dry rotting. So there has to be something to cover that asphalt of the shingle in order to protect it and give it a longer lifespan. The granules are actually just made of limestone, and they're dyed to give it different colors. So if there were no granules, you have asphalt laying just out in the open, you have two things that are going to age that asphalt. You have first the sun, which is you have UV rays that are gonna dry rot that asphalt and cause cracks. And then you have water that comes in and fills those gaps where the granules are missing. So they're little divots, and then eventually they become larger sections, and then they become different open areas on your shingle. And where the water is gonna stay is never a good thing, especially in the wintertime, where the water is gonna go inside of those cracks and then freeze up and turn to ice and wedge things out even further. So granules are your front line of defense, and if you don't have granules, then your roof is gonna last significantly less. Now, how do we do this test? Well, we took a wire bristle brush and we want to simulate friction, because when we're on your roof, we're going to be walking up on your roof. We're going to be pivoting, we're going to be stepping, we're going to be moving, we're going to be grinding, and it's not like we're just going to be demolishing and destroying your roof. But day one, when we're walking all over it, there's a lot of friction, and we are going to put some wear and tear on your roof just in the initial day. And it's not like people will be touching it later on. But Mother Nature always wins in the end. So the best way that we can simulate the brutality of Mother Nature and all the foot traffic on your roof from day one is to use a metal wire brush. And it's going to apply friction at a consistent speed and consistent pressure across the length of the shingle. After we apply the wire brush and run it across, we then remove the shingle, we shake out the loose granules, we sweep up the granules, we put them on a gram scale, we weigh them, and then we get our results. So our top contenders, the ones that did the greatest, you of course have the Malarkey Vista, the Malarkey Highlander, those are SBS polymer-modified shingles. You have the Owens Corning shingles, and you also have Tamco Titan XT that did very well. The lowest contenders, you have basically the GAF and the IKO shingles. Now the moment we've all been waiting for, the final results. In the top spot, you have the Malarkey Vista. Number 2, Malarkey Highlander. These I put in their own category, more or less the elite category. There is quite a huge difference in the span of points that they had versus the others. In number 3, you have Owens Corning Duration. Number 4, you have Tamco Titan XT. You have CertainTeed Landmark Pro in number 5, and you have GAF Timberline UHDZ in number 6. These I put as the contenders because they are good shingles, they're going to be lasting a good while, good bang for your buck, not quite as good as the elites, but they're in their own category that they've established themselves as solid contenders. Number 7 gets its own unique category, the sleeper category, Atlas Pinnacle Pristine. There were some things where Atlas didn't do so well in some of the tests, they did really well in the others, but they've been making some improvements on them. So they get their own, and I look forward to seeing what they can do for next year. Next category, you have Average Joes. There's nothing great. There's nothing inherently bad. They're just run-of-the-mill shingles. And number 8, IKO Dynasty. Number 9, GAF Timberline HDZ. Number 10, Owens Corning Oak Ridge. Number 11, Certainteed Landmark. Number 12, Tamco Heritage. And the final category in our do not recommend, you have number 13 as the IKO Cambridge and number 14, GAF Timberline Natural Shadow. These are shingles that we wouldn't put on anyone's house. And that's a wrap. Thank you for watching. We hope that you enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment and like and subscribe. And if you're in the Chicago region and you are in the market for a roof, please give us a call. We'll see you soon.